Hey yo, what's up everybody? One of the most anticipated characters of the 2.x series just dropped. A character that has been seen in multiple main quests, event quests, and all kinds of cameos. Y'all already know who I'm talking about. But let's keep it a stack. Does she really live up to the hype? Cause I've been running tests, I've been crunching numbers, and I've been taking her into battle for 3 days straight, trying to see how this character stacks up against her contemporaries. And for me, Zani just doesn't feel that strong. It's something I would have said on day 1 or day 2. But yo, eventually something just clicked. I made some changes, I switched some things up, and now she's hitting different. So in this video, I want to talk about how you can make your Phoebe-less gameplay with Zani a little bit better. And that'll be at the end. And guys, it's really simple. But first, I want to get into why she might not feel strong to play for some of us at first, by laying out both the good and the bad in her design and her rollout. Let's get into it. Zani has several things working in her favor. Now, I'm not going to say she's easy to play, but she does make combat gameplay easier. Let me explain. When it comes down to combat, the prime objective is to deal as much damage as possible while keeping the team healthy. Oftentimes, defense, whether in the form of a healer or just getting out of the way, it comes at the cost of DPS. But with Zani, you can just parry at any time. You don't have to wait for the parry window, and her ability is so accessible that even when you're fielding other characters, you can just swap her in to parry and take care of an attack that you might not have the dodge timing down on, and then swap it right back out. This has resulted in me performing multiple no-hit runs on bosses by accident. You know the satisfaction you get when you parry an enemy? Well, with Zani, it's like double that satisfaction. Zani can deal a lot of damage during her ult window. Not only that, but her initial cast and swings have a large AoE that can handle a lot of surrounding enemies. And crowd control or attacks that hit groups of enemies is always a benefit to a team. When it comes to building her, Zani is lucky to be a character who can make use of the Eternal Radiance Echo set. This set is forgiving and it allows players to prioritize other stats than crit rate, and her being a character that requires her ult to perform well, it won't be as difficult to obtain the amount of energy regen necessary for her to excel. By the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to like and share. It really does help me continue to make awesome videos just like this one. Now moving on to the bad. There are a number of things that I think contribute to the overall experience of her not feeling powerful. Don't worry though, because after this, I'll explain how I was able to remedy some of these things for myself with just gameplay. Zani is heavily reliant on other characters to fuel her with enough blaze to actually be able to do the damage she's capable of. She isn't a character that feels good to play while running around solo. And I know not everyone likes to do this, but if you're one of those people who likes to run around with a party of 1 or do solo boss runs, it might not be as fun. Zani is very ult reliant. Again, her parry is useful, but if you aren't in her ult form, you're really not going to be dealing a lot of damage. And she really doesn't feel good to play unless you have enough energy regen to be able to ult whenever her blaze is ready. Zani needs that spectral frazzle status effect to perform, and right now there are only 2 characters capable of providing this effect. So if you don't have Phoebe and you don't like playing Spectral Rover, you're gonna have a bad time. Unlike some other characters like Corlata, Chun-Li, Zhang Liao, you won't be able to easily mix and match her with other characters. she suffers from a suboptimal rollout. And this is more about her release than about her as a character, but it all ties in. Zani was released after her dedicated teammate. Typically, DPSs are released before their respective buffers and not after. You wouldn't even have known you would have needed Phoebe to buff her unless you were looking at leaks. But even if you did look at leaks or somehow found out beforehand, you wouldn't even have known if you'd liked the DPS gameplay first before getting the buffer. So you'd essentially be pulling on blind faith that she'd be your cup of tea. There's a lack of 4-star, non-sweaty, and budget options for status application. She needs frazzle, and for the amount of frazzle that Zani needs, let's be real, Rover is a struggle applicator. I honestly feel like the game's current roster of characters was not prepared for Zani's release. There should have already been a 4-star Spectral Frazzle healer. This way, whether you decided to roll with Rover or get Phoebe, all your bases would already be covered. Rover would help to build stacks with this new healer, and Phoebe could also have a healer and another character along with Zani to buff with their respective abilities. The real reason I think Zani didn't feel strong, at least to me and a few others I asked, was for all of this and one more main reason, and that is what we have become used to. We're used to damage dealing characters falling into one of two different categories. Category 1 is on-field main DPS, and the other is quick swap DPS. Zani falls in between the two of them. On-field DPS teams typically operate like this. You field your buffer, do their stuff to provide a team-wide buff, field your sub DPS, do some damage and buff your main DPS. Then switch to your main DPS, deal the bulk of the team's damage, then repeat the rotation. On the other hand, I feel like quick swap DPSs just swap on field in the downtime of other characters or just whenever. There are some optimal rotations, but you kinda get to be free and go back and forth to whoever whenever you'd like without significant consequence. My problem is that I was trying to use Zani like a typical main DPS. Mainly because that's kind of how you play ult form characters in this game as well as others. You set the stage with your other teammates and then you let the DPS do their thing. But that was not working for me here. Her clear times were very slow. Eventually, I found out that she functions best as a quick swap character until her blaze is sufficiently filled. Then she plays like a typical on-field main DPS that has an ult form. If you don't have Phoebe like me, what I found to be best is to spam Rover's enhanced skill and his ultimate, then just weave in Zani's parry skill whenever you can, until her blaze and her energy is sufficiently filled. And that's pretty much it. It's simple, but it works. Otherwise, the gameplay just becomes playing with Rover 90% of the time. But guys, let me know, how do you feel about Zani? Did you see her value immediately? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Anyways, that is all I have for you today, and until next time, I'll catch you in the waves. Peace.